Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television tonight. Tough times for hawkers in Bumyebel in the Nyong and Kili division after the target was delocalized. A few weeks ago, a road project which is taking more time than expected is at the origin of the frustration of all the vendors. We shall be getting their reactions in this edition of the news. Also, some senators in the nation's capital have admitted that the government is overpowered by the current social unrest plaguing the two Anglophone regions of the country. We'll tell you as well how dozens of shops went into flames in Bamenda Northwest region of the country in the early hours of this morning. Those are headlines. We shall be right back. Stay with us. Good evening to you once again, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. It is more than a day now that Paul Nasiribia is the governor of the center region of the country, was appointed in a presidential decree yesterday, and it should be noted that senior divisional officers as well were appointed in some parts of the country. The new governor of the center region, Paul Nasiribia, and the senior divisional officer of the Mayo Luti division, Zakaria Unjoya, are now preparing to take up duty after the appointment of yesterday. Jonathan Babla spoke with them in the economic capital Douala today and got their reactions. Let's hear them in the following report.
From Banja as divisional officer through Dinkam division as first assistant senior division officer, Lom and Jerry, Jamari, Menua, and Wuri divisions as prefect, he now takes over command from late Otto Wilson as governor of the Central Region. 53-year-old civil administrator Nasiri Paul Bea began in Douala and was appointed through a presidential decree while on service in Douala. I began my career in Douala in this same building as chief of cabinet, and I am fortunate to have worked again in this building to be appointed governor, so I keep good memories. On his part, Zakaria Unjoya has been on duty as divisional officer of the Douala 3 subdivision for the past 6 years. He now moves to the North region in the capacity of senior divisional officer of the Mayo Luti division. I thank the head of state for renewing his confidence by appointing me senior divisional officer of the Mayo Luti division. I am determined to work hard to merit the confidence.
Pour travailler dur afin de mériter cette confiance.
While Nasiri Paul Bea is urging the population he is leaving behind in the Wuri division to work for economic growth, Zakaria Unjoya is urging the population of the Douala 3 subdivision to continue respecting state institutions, notably concerning land crisis prevailing there. I believe that the hard-working population who have been under my command will continue to work for the development of our economy and will remain good citizens, not accepting disorder.
Ce que je regrette comme tâche qui n'a pas été.
I regret that I could not completely stop the problem of land quarrels, so I am calling the population of Douala 3 to remain calm, dynamic, and to respect state institutions.
Those are the challenges that the divisional officer for the Douala 3 subdivisions, Joya, and the senior divisional officer for Wuri, Paul Nasiribia, are leaving behind. They were speaking there to Babla Jonathan. Now, how is Yaoundé preparing to receive its new governor? Roland Akong visited the governor's office to see how his collaborators are preparing to welcome him. Let's take a look at the atmosphere reigning at the governor's office in Yaoundé in the following report.
Keep the governor's office clean. It is the exercise we made at the office of the governor of the Central Region as we set out to see preparations at the region, as the area is fondly called, to welcome the new governor of the center appointed Monday by President Biya. Nasiri Paul Bea is coming to take over from Joseph Otto Wilson, who died 4 months ago. If Bertrand Awumfak, Secretary General of the region, has been acting as governor. At our arrival, he was chairing the Tuesday security meeting of the Center region. He tells us the cleaning campaign at the governor's office aims to refurbish the environment, keep the lieu clean, a lieu which he says was almost in a state of a pigsty.
Nous avons tout simplement voulu rester égal à nous-mêmes, à savoir faire la propreté.
The news of the appointment of Nasiri Paul Biya as governor for the Center region, he adds, was welcomed with joy by the population of the region.
Il est dans la continuité de ceux qui l'ont précédé et peut-être faire encore mieux par la grâce de Dieu.
That his collaborators in the region are all poised to give him all the support necessary to help him accomplish his task as governor. Nasiri Paul Biya from the Southwest region, before his appointment, was SG of the Uri division in the Littoral region.
Now, the eldest member of the Senate has lauded the efforts of the government in resolving the problems rocking the two Anglophone regions of the country. Von V.E. Mokete was speaking during the opening ceremony of the 2017 senatorial session that was yesterday afternoon. He also condemned what he termed unorthodox methods used by some individuals in trying to solve the current Anglophone crisis. Now, some senators of the opposition have admitted that the executive arm of the government in Cameroon has failed to address the ongoing problems plaguing the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. They have called for the need for the holding of a Congress which is going to bring together members of the upper and lower houses of parliament. Roland Akon once again has the details.
Now, the situation has not found a solution. It means that the executive has not been doing much in some areas. That the Prime Minister has gone in the area, mostly the northwest. Might be he will be going to the southwest. So let him come back with the result of what he has found or what he has gathered from there. Let him table it to the two chambers and let the two chambers create even a congressional committee to see how they can look into this issue to find solution to it.
When you have one part of your body which has a problem, the whole body is affected. So we are doing our best to assist the government to have a lasting solution for this problem.
Whatever is the case, let every Cameroonian regard another one as a brother, as a sister, and when there's a problem from any action or any faction, we should look into it very well and not to feel that it is Anglophone problem alone or this. What happens if another section tomorrow should come up with another problem? How do we look at it? So the problem of Anglophone is a problem of Cameroon, which should be solved in a peaceful atmosphere.
Cameroon attaches a lot of importance to its policy of national unity and national integration. And every effort and every move that we make should be towards that direction so that we shall have a Cameroon that is intended to have a bright future and a useful tomorrow for all of our citizens.
The reactions of senators of the CPDM as well as those of the opposition as far as the ongoing crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of the country is concerned, their reactions were captured by Roland Akon. Now, we talked about a fire incident which reduced 40 shops, at least 40 shops into ashes in Bamenda. Precisely at the food market, the inferno is reported to have started in the early hours of this morning, precisely at 2 a.m., though the cause of the inferno is yet to be established. Inhabitants are suspecting that it may have been provoked by some alleged criminals, as reports say that trucks were distributed yesterday around town, warning traders of the Bamenda food market who are not respecting the call for ghost town. It should be noted that a meeting was equally announced for today between the traders and local authorities in the chief town of the northwest region of the country. We shall be coming back to that in a subsequent newscast. Yesterday, we equally told you that some truck drivers went on rampage to denounce several grievances, and they were equally accusing custom officials for their troubles and their plight. The Director General of Customs, Edwin Fongot, says that the problems that grounded trucks on transit to N'Djamena in Chad at the Douala seaport have so far been solved. Truck drivers paralyzed activities for about 3 weeks, and he was reacting. That was on the sidelines of the strike action that has been orchestrated by some truck drivers for several days now. Let's now have an excerpt of the Director General of Customs. He was speaking to Babla Jonathan.
The problem is that we always have an average number of GPs that we use per month, and that's what we prepare. And we tell our customers, we tell our partners that they should always make it possible. They should always inform us whenever they have an exceptional command for GPs. Usually they forget, and that's exactly what happened, because they didn't, in a proactive manner, inform us that they were going to have an exceptional consignment of goods that will need so many GPs. But we got this information last Friday evening, and I think by now the situation is under control.
The ongoing rehabilitation works of the road in Bumnyabel, that is in the Nyong and Kele division, has brought untold hardship to roadside vendors. The traders say that they are facing tough times as the rate or the target has so far been delocalized by administrative authorities in order to hasten the ongoing construction works of the said company that has begun work since the month of November or December 2016. Vendors at the new toll gate along Bumnyabel Yaoundé say that the distance is too far for them to carry out their daily sales. Their dismay comes after the delocalization, as I said earlier, of the Bumnyabel toll gate to Omok. Let's have the details with Smart Njikan Gabriel.
A vendor at the new Bumnyabel toll gate burst out in anger as she complains about the distance she has to cover to do her business. The Bumnyabel stretch of road, whose renovation works have slowed down because of the congestion caused by the presence of the toll gate, might now see the light of day. This is so because the toll gate has been moved 7 kilometers away from Bumnyabel to a locality called Omok. The change of the location comes after some few weeks that the Secretary of State in charge of roads at the Ministry of Transport visited the ongoing construction works. This change of the toll gate has brought small hardship to the roadside vendors. The Bumnyabel stretch of road, whose construction work was expected to be over, is still lagging behind, and some road specialists believe that even with the delocalization of the toll gate, the contractors won't meet up with the deadline of 1 month given to them recently by the Ministry of Transport.
We take you now to the southwest region of the country, precisely in Limbe, where the government delegate to the Limbe City Council, Motanga Andrew Monjimba, has said that the Limbe Culture or Festival of Arts and Culture has nothing to do with politics and should not be affected by the social unrest plaguing the two Anglophone regions of the country. He made the remark during a press conference that was announcing this year's edition of the Cultural Jamboree, and is going to cost some 120 million francs CFA. Let's have the details with Davison Maimo.
Speaking during the press conference, the government delegate to the Limbe City Council, Motanga Andrew Monjimba, said Limbe Festival of Art and Culture, which is a reference cultural jamboree, aimed not only to showcase Cameroon's rich cultural heritage to the rest of the world.
Our community, which is cosmopolitan, as you may wish to know it, remains one where people in diverse culture and living diverse ideas, diverse origins, live together, sing together, dance together, eat together, and do everything together. That is what we want to focus.
On the issue of the social unrest rocking the two Anglophone region, the government delegate stated categorically that the Festival of Art and Culture is non-political, thus needs not to be affected by the social unrest.
We should avoid as much as we can to politicize the event. I stand against it.
The mayors of Limbe 1, 2 and 3 added their voices to say they are fully behind the Limbe Festival of Art and Culture.
In our various municipalities, we stand united in support of this wonderful vision. We stand united in the love for our city.
On their part, the traditional rulers of Limbe, through the president of Limbe Subdivisional Chiefs Conference, unanimously say the Festival of Art and Culture is the only opportunity for the preservation of the culture.
The city chiefs coming together from southwest, northwest, central, all over the place, it will draw attention that we are one and indivisible.
This year, Limbe Festival of Art and Culture has a budget of 120 million CFA francs.
And the Arts and Cultural Jamboree is going to begin in the month of April 2017. Now we talk sports. The Cameroon Football Federation, FECAFOOT, has sanctioned the 4 referees who handled the match pitting Tekase against Botafogo. A release signed by the scribe of FECAFOOT, Musa Bless, indicated that Tekase had no license, hence could not have been allowed to take part in the encounter against Botafogo. It should be noted that the said encounter took place after 9 minutes of a cold war between the various factions of Tekase, and yesterday the senior divisional officer from Fundi equally issued a decision indicating or banning all activities of Tekase in his area of command. In news out of the country, the Gambia's president is on an official visit to France and Europe. Adama Barrow would have to spend 48 hours in Paris and then to Brussels. His visit is to discuss economic cooperation with France and European Union development stakeholders in an effort to relaunch the economy of his country. Details with Jacques Ekwekinge. A sincere apologies for the approximate quality of the report. We shall be coming back to that in a subsequent newscast. They're bringing us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. We thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this second segment of the news. We are going to be having as guest a professor of the University of Douala. Good evening to you, Professor Kizitus Mpuche. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you for inviting me.
You are president of the Cameroon Commonwealth Alumni.
Yes,
you are equally the president of the Commonwealth clubs in Cameroon.
Yes, I am.
It should be noted that a few days ago, activities to mark the Commonwealth Day were being celebrated across the national territory. It was launched in Yaoundé, in Bamenda, and in Boya. Before we talk about the launching activities or the ceremonies as far as the Commonwealth Day is concerned, let us first of all take a look at the theme, which is building a peace-building Commonwealth. How can you relate this theme to the situation in Cameroon?
Well, thank you, Mimi. I think this theme comes very timely as far as Cameroon is concerned, because definitely when Commonwealth authorities were choosing this theme last March, Cameroon was very peaceful. There were no problems in Cameroon. But if you go into the Charter of the Commonwealth, you discover that one of the major components of the Commonwealth Charter is peace building. So this theme was chosen last year, and it ties in very squarely with the situation in Cameroon and in many parts of the world. So this is a very welcome theme as far as many conflicts situations are concerned, and we hope that this is a moment for all of us to join our voices together in order to build peace, because we are peace builders.
When you talk about peace, are you referring to to be more specific to the problems in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon, we saw how activities to mark the day were equally launched in Bamenda, in Boya, and also in Yaoundé, which has been done very rarely, I should say. Is that what you are talking about? Well, the situation in the two Anglophone regions of the country?
I'm talking about peace globally, because the Commonwealth is an international organization. And this is an international organization that looks for peace not only within member countries, but within the world as a whole. So the launching of Commonwealth activities did not only take place in Cameroon, they took place all over the world. And in London, the launching was on the 8th of March, and this coincided with the International Women's Day, as you know. And the theme of that launching in London was, let's stop domestic violence together. Now you could see the Commonwealth tying in with female empowerment and form of the protection of the woman coming in. So the case in Cameroon is not an exception, because as you bear with me, a few days ago, the British High Commission was at the Presidency of the Republic, and when he came out of the audience with the head of state, he declared that they discuss bilateral issues ranging from trade through other issues to the Anglophone problem. So you see that the theme of peace this year is a theme that is international, but focuses on conflict areas without Cameroon being excluded.
Meaning that the Anglophone crisis too is a force to reckon with as far as the Commonwealth is concerned.
Definitely.
The Commonwealth is equally concerned, worried about the situation in the two English-speaking regions of the country.
Well, definitely the Commonwealth is an international association where member states mutualize their efforts in order to solve their problems, in order to gain from that association. And you will notice that within Cameroon, the bicultural heritage that we have of English and French is something which the Commonwealth will not stay mute about. And not staying mute about it will lead to these launchings that you have this year, maybe popularized because of the prevailing circumstances, but definitely the launching in Douala, which was very great yesterday, was not popularized as much as the launchings in the other places, because regions. We had a sports walk with symbols of peace, calling on all Cameroonians to be peace builders. We had hundreds of students and non-students participating in this launching. So I think the Commonwealth is particularly concerned with peace, not only within big countries like Britain, New Zealand, Australia, but countries, smaller countries like Cameroon, given the situation that we have now.
Now, apart from reinforcing peace in the Commonwealth countries, because there are 52 of them, one of the core message of this day is to raise awareness on the rule of law, democracy, and other values like human rights, the promotion of human rights. When you look at a country like Cameroon, do you see these values strictly respected?
It's difficult for an individual to be able to judge the values of democracy and good governance of a country. Maybe it takes an institution or a specialist in the given domain. But as far as the Commonwealth is concerned, the Commonwealth institution fosters democracy and good governance. That is why you notice that whenever there are elections in any Commonwealth country, there's a Commonwealth delegation that is sent to that country, and that delegation does a pre- and a post-election report. What this means is that the delegation is keen on the elections being free and fair, and whatever malpractices take place, the delegation points out these malpractices. These, including other things that the Commonwealth does, shows that the Commonwealth is out for peace, democracy, and good governance. But of course, the sovereignty of the states is respected. It's not like the Commonwealth is an association that will move with a stick to say, okay, this was not respected, we have to whip you. But then the Commonwealth proceeds through pressure, through international pressure, and then mediation, so that things can be done in the right way.
You talked about mediation.
Yes.
Very interesting. What has the Commonwealth done apart from declarations calling for peace, calling for good governance as far as the crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions is concerned? Have you got to the point, has it got to the point of mediation, calling for dialogue as far as the crisis is concerned?
Mediation may take several forms, depending on the prevailing circumstances. In the case of overt hostilities. Mediation may take the form of maybe soldiers being sent to the field, okay? But then mediation at some stage is more in terms of diplomacy, more in terms of dialogue, more in terms of conscientization than in terms of maybe open kind of activity that everybody may be able to see. We in the field, in our different areas, may not be able to see and master what the Commonwealth is doing as far as the Anglophone problem is concerned in Cameroon now. But definitely, Cameroon being a Commonwealth nation and giving a bicultural heritage of La Francophonie and the Commonwealth, it is obvious that the powers that be and the authorities of the Commonwealth are doing something which you and I cannot be able to point a finger at until it comes public.
Only time will tell.
That's the point.
Now, 22 years after joining the Commonwealth of Nations, amongst the over 50 nations that are member countries to the Commonwealth, what has Cameroon been able to achieve?
It is, again, very difficult for one to be able to enumerate what Cameroon has achieved from the Commonwealth. But if I take an example in the domain within which I operate, within the academia, right, I would say Cameroon has benefited so much from Commonwealth scholarships and fellowships, because a large number of Cameroonians have benefited from these scholarships, and they go study in prestigious universities and they acquire knowledge which they will otherwise not be able to acquire, and they return to their home countries, because that's one of the conditions. You have to return to your home country in order to be able to empower and impact the knowledge that you have acquired in the younger ones, and that is what we are trying to do. And on Saturday, we are going to hold an alumni meeting, right, during which we are going to take stock of what we've been doing, during which we are going to welcome newly returned Commonwealth scholars and fellows, and we are going to plan further activities on how we can impact knowledge, on how we can further sensitize the Cameroonian public about the Commonwealth Charter, about the respect for human rights, about good governance, about democracy, and more especially about human resource, because it's not enough to have a population. You need to transform this population into human resource for development to follow.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
Thank you so much, Mimi. Thank you.
To our televiewers, we thank you as well for joining us in this edition of the Prime Time Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.